Today on Phudpucker Farms, we're headed to Korea. We're making some labs, and we're going to do some cooking by making a traditional Korean dish called Bibimbap, but we're doing it Phudpucker style. Are you ready? Let's go. Before we get into the heart of this episode, I need to pause for a minute. This past week, I got a note from a subscriber asking if we're just going to be another cannabis channel. Well, we will feature our journey through this season. This channel is not just about growing cannabis. You see, we grow a whole bunch of stuff, from agave to zinnias, and everything in between. This channel is about a way of being, and how I've come into this way after I died. It's about trying to be in tune with our environment, from the smallest of bacteria to the largest concepts in the cosmos. You see, we're attempting to teach and inspire you to think a little. We're also trying to start a dialogue in the hopes that those of you that stumble upon this channel might be served in some way. I hope I might possibly prevent someone from suffering through what I suffered through, which was no joke. And we hope to wake up a couple people in the process, all while doing it with a dash of love. Now let's get to making some labs. The use of labs has its roots deeply ingrained in the methods of Korean natural farming, which I've adopted a couple of those techniques, which you'll see along the way here. So what is labs? Well, labs is an acronym actually for Lactic Acid Bacteria Serum. So why do I use it and what is it good for? Well, I employ labs because it helps in the decomposition of organic matter, and it removes byproducts that can create a harmful environment. Labs limits the undesirable organisms in your garden and creates a more balanced environment that is able to build plant vitality better. Labs contributes to plant disease suppression, it regulates the balance of soil composition, and it helps in the formation of humus. Making labs is really a simple Simon process. I start with 1 cup of white rice and 2 cups of clean water, meaning no chlorine, chloride, or chloramine. In other words, don't use municipal tap water. Put the rice and the water into your bowl and swish the rice around in the water. The water will strip off some of the starch from the rice, giving the bacteria that's present an excellent food source. Once your water is clouded like you see here, then strain that liquid into either a stainless steel or glass bowl. Place a tea towel over the bowl and put the bowl in a dark spot at room temperature where you're going to leave it alone for roughly 3 to 4 days. After 3 or 4 days, you'll notice that there is a layer of scum that's kind of formed on the top of the rice water, and it should smell a little sweet sourish, and those are good indicators that you're ready to go now. If you look at the rice water from the side, and unfortunately I didn't get this shot, you'll see 3 layers in the water. The scum on the top, your inoculant in the middle, and then a layer of starch that's fallen out of the water on the bottom. You can use everything in the bowl if you want. I just choose to extract what I need, which is 3/4 of a cup of this rice water. You can do that with a turkey baster. I do it, as you can see here, with a syringe, and then just fill that 3/4 of a cup. Once you've retrieved the amount you want to start with, in this case it's 6 ounces, you need to add 10 times that amount, or in my case 60 ounces of milk, into a glass jar. Now a couple words of caution here. You really don't want to use ultra pasteurized milk because there's no bacteria in that milk whatsoever. Ideally you want to use raw milk, but if you do, I'll caution you to take the cream off the top because that'll cause you some problems down the road if you don't. Now once you've added the milk, you cover it with a tea towel or a muslin cloth, and you can let that sit at room temperature for 48 hours. Here we are 48 hours later, and as I uncover the jar, you can see the cheese that has been produced by the bacteria. This is basically the oldest way to make cheese. You can eat this cheese. It spreads on crackers really well, and it's quite tangy. I usually just feed it to our animals. It's a fantastic probiotic for them. The chickens like it, but Boomer, our donkey, that crazy jackass will chase you down for it. To begin separating the curds from the whey, I slice through it with a knife, then I separate the curds from the whey by pouring everything out through a cheesecloth and a press. I place the serum into the glass jar that I'm going to use to store the labs. At this point, there are really two methods of storage. One is at room temperature on the shelf, and the other you have to refrigerate. In the spring, I usually store it on the shelf, and in the fall, I use the fridge. So what's the difference? Well, in the spring, I got loads of eggs in my refrigerator, so I don't have the room. In the fall, I have plenty of room, so I put it in the fridge. The difference really is the addition of food for bacteria to eat. Now, if you're going to store it in the fridge, you only need to add 1 or 2 teaspoons of the molasses. But if you want to store it on the shelf at room temperature, well, then you need to add an equal amount of molasses as there is serum. So in other words, if you have a cup of serum, you got to add a cup of molasses. And that's what I'm choosing to do here, as you can see. To use the labs in the garden, I dilute 1 to 2 teaspoons of labs per gallon of water. I put it into one of my pressure sprayers, and man, I spray it on everything. Plants, soil, you name it. I even spray it on the chicken bedding in the coop because in the summertime it really helps keep the smell down. So there you have it. That's your first lesson in Korean natural farming. We hope that you make good use of this knowledge. Now, let's get to making some Korean food. Traditional Korean bibimbap, as pictured here, is a beef dish, and that's where we'll start as we move into the kitchen. Hey, wait a minute. I don't eat beef anymore. Yep, that's right. I choose not to, which is why I said at the beginning of this video we're making this dish Phudpucker style. Now remember that rice that we used to create the wash? Well, here it is put to use. Here's why this dish works. I reconfigured it and replaced the beef with these spelt berries, which I'll cover in a minute, and we used the last of the shiitake mushrooms I grew this early spring, and I add a lot of flavor with soy sauce, garlic, and toasted sesame seed oil. Now the spelt berry, it's a grain that you prepare just like the rice, which I combined here with the rice. It adds an excellent texture to the dish. It gives a chew to the mouthfeel as you chow down on it. It's also really good for you, by the way. It brings 11 grams of protein to this dish, plus vitamins A, C, D, E, and K, thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, vitamin B6, B12, and folate, plus calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, zinc, copper, manganese, and selenium. Next, we prepare the pickled vegetables. Don't worry about the ingredients list. I'll post that towards the end of the video. I'm not going to bore you by talking about peeling and chopping veggies either. I think you can figure that out for yourself. Just make sure that you seed the cucumber and use the grater on the carrots. It's going to save you a bunch of time. Plus, if you're like me, I like to use it because I really don't enjoy julienning carrots. Lastly, you want to make sure that these vegetables are just covered with the vinegar. Now you can use whatever vinegar you like. If you make your own vinegar, that's great. That's something that I'm going to save for a future video. The pickled vegetables really offset the richness of the egg yolk in this dish, and they add a nice crunch to it. The vegetables should sit in the vinegar for about 30 to 45 minutes as we move on to prepare the rest of this meal. Now let's move on chopping some mushrooms. You want to chop your mushrooms in some good-sized chunks for this dish. Right before you begin chopping your shrooms, however, I should mention that you want to start to get your pan hot because you want to cook in what is substantially hot when the mushrooms hit the pan. So when you put that sesame oil in the pan, it immediately shimmers, which you're going to see here. By doing this, the mushrooms really retain their meatiness. After the mushrooms are going, you're going to want to add in your greens, whichever you choose. I like kale because I grow a lot of it, but you can use spinach, you can use whatever you want. There's really no rules here. You just want to put some greens into this meal. I just really like the kale. You continue to cook that until the greens are really wilted. Once that's complete, then you want to remove that pan off to the side to let it cool down. That's very important in this process. And while that pan is cooling down, you want to mince up some garlic and give that a quick saute in the pan that you're going to cook your eggs in. That gives that pan a little hint of flavor, plus it allows the mushrooms, of course, to cool off. You want that pan to cool so that when you add the soy sauce in, it doesn't immediately evaporate from the heat, and it allows the mushrooms to fully absorb the soy sauce, which really kicks up your flavor profile nicely. Now let's get to assembling this dish. I start by putting a half a cup of the cooked rice spelt mixture into a bowl. Now you can use a plate if you prefer, it really doesn't matter. Next you top that rice with the mixture of the mushrooms and kale. Then drain out your veggies of the vinegar and place a heap of those on top of the mushrooms. Next you place your fried egg on the top of that. Now you'll notice here that I use an over easy egg because that's what I like. Traditionally, Koreans use a raw egg or a sunny side up egg on this dish. I just don't like how runny that is in the dish. This way, I still have a runny yolk, but I get a meaty texture of the egg white. And when you cut into it, that yolk runs out and covers the rice and really brings the umami flavor profile of this dish to its peak. Lastly, I top this off with some chopped cilantro and green onions. Now I gotta tell you, my oldest son is a professional chef, and he said my plating technique here was really terrible. Oh well, it tastes fantastic once it hits your palate. As I mentioned, here's your ingredients list for this dish. Pause the video if you want to write it down. I'm going to wrap this video up with some Growers Love shoutouts to my very first couple of subscribers. First, to Adam Shaken. Buddy, I appreciate your comments. Keep them coming. And to Surprise Daily. I really do consider it an honor that somebody acknowledges the channel and takes an interest in what I'm attempting to impart in this series. So if you like where I'm going, help me spread the love a little bit. Now, I can't have a video with a Korean theme to it without having a Korean artist take us through the credits. Some of you might have already guessed it based on the title. Yep, Psy is going to take us out today, but it's probably not the music you're thinking about. Much love, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on our next video.
What we need is love. What we need is love. 딱 잘라 말해 이분법으로 갈라 말해 선과 악 명과 암 다수와 다르다고 그걸 틀리다고 말해 나의 어린 날에 세상에 알려준 건 차례 나서지마 나대지마 튀어나온 못은 망치에 맞는다고 하네 콩 한쪽도 나눠 먹어라 두 배가 되니 기쁨을 나눠라 근데 성공을 어찌 나누랴 혹시 그래서 배가 아픈가 다른 걸 틀리다고 하니 너 빼고 다 틀린 거니 샘하고 시샘하고 세상이 우릴 모욕하고 때로는 우릴 모독하고 결국 세상을 욕하고 그래서 우린 고독하고 What we need is love What we need is love, yeah. What we need is the love, yeah. 나의 반성문, 반성은 세상이 준 선물. 남들 탓, 세상 탓. 적을 알고 나를 알면 내 거야 전리품. 나의 장점은 툭하면 만극한 성은. 고마워, 미안해. 두 가지만 제대하면 걸로 인생 끝. 누울 자리 보고 누워라 눈치가 없으면 보고 배워라 돈 조심 입 조심 술 조심 조심조심하다 인생 끝날라 부러우면 지는 거라 하니 넌 일생 언제 이기니 샘하고 시샘하고 세상이 우릴 모욕하고 때로는 우릴 모독하고 결국 세상을 욕하고 그래서 우린 고독하고 What we need is love What we need is love Yeah What we need is the love Yeah Wow 입에 담기조차 힘든 말을 담아 한번 뱉고 나면 못 주워 담아 살다가 보면 너무나 많은 상처를 서로 주고받아 모든 사람들이 내 맘 같지 않아 내 자신조차도 내 맘 같지 않아 원인은 너고 범인은 나야 세상을 탓하지는 말아 세상이 우릴 모욕하고 때로는 우릴 모독하고 결국 세상을 욕하고 그래서 우린 고독하고 What we need is love What we need is love Yeah What we need is the love Yeah What we need is love